You're listening to Just Some Guys with Esoteric. In today's episode, I'm talking to my good friend, DJ Liszeski, the Navy Seaman. Let's get into it. All right, so first thing I have to ask is why the Navy?
That's a great question. Um, I don't really know is the short answer,
Yeah.
but long answer is about I guess close to 3 years ago now. I was laying on my bed and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And I called out, I was like, Lord, what should I do? He was like,
Mhm.
you should join the military. It's like, oh, that's different. I mean, that kind of made sense. My dad was in the Air Force. One of my older
Mhm.
brothers was in the Army. So I was like, okay. Well, which branch? He was like, Navy. And I thought, I'm from a landlocked state. Why are you sending me to the ocean? But
Yeah.
God works in mysterious ways. And so, I mean, that's why. I just trying to act out of obedience.
Yeah, man. Amen. Because I remember back in I don't know what year it was. Whenever you first joined Quiet, we started hanging out and stuff. You're talking about like Air Force and being a chaplain and stuff like that.
It
You
was
know?
originally the Air Force. That's right.
Yeah. And then you like text me, he's like, "Hey, I'm joining the Navy." I'm like, threw me for a loop.
Yeah, God does that. I was
Yeah,
also just as surprised.
yeah,
But I've met a lot of good people and
nice.
learned a lot of cool things. A lot of cool things I wish I could share.
Yeah. It kind of brings me to another question I have. Um, how does classified information work?
All right.
Or is
So
that
there
also
are
classified?
well, no, that you can look this up. So there are three main levels of
Hmm.
classification. And they're all based off of like how badly could this hurt our country if it were to be released, right?
Hmm.
So the lowest level is confidential. And so that's kind of like personal information, like your social security number or my banking information. That's what confidential information is. It's like if this gets out, this could mess somebody up, but like overall the country will be relatively okay. And then
All
you
right.
have secret information, which is pretty a huge step above confidential. This is like if this stuff were to get out, this would like thwart our plans, kind of leasing like military strategy and stuff like that. And then you have the highest level of security, which is top secrets. Like if this gets out, this could potentially start a war. And so those are your three levels of classification. And then they have what's called, it's not a classification, but it's more like a sub-classification referred to as sensitive compartmentalized information. And basically, like say you have something top secret, but you got it using a method or got it from a certain place and you don't want to reveal that method. And so you put SCI on it because if this gets out, not only will you reveal that information, but you will also potentially reveal how you got it, and that could potentially like rat out a spy that we have or something like that.
Mm, that's cool.
Very.
So, how long have you been in the Navy now? Like a year, right? Or has it been a year yet?
No, it's been close to 7 months now. I joined back
7 months.
July 1st. Well, I
Okay.
signed the paper last February, but it didn't officially begin until July 1st.
Well, you were owned last February, so it's been about a year.
If you want to count that as the time, then yeah, pretty much.
All right, all right.
Oh, sorry
So,
about
how
that.
much classified information do you have from then to now, if any? Like, I would assume you have a little bit. Is that also classified?
Um, I I know enough. Sorry, I had to fix something. I know
You're
enough
fine.
about submarines that I could be sent to jail for revealing said information.
Hmm.
So, like, yeah, if that answers your question.
Oh, yeah. All right. All right. So, are submarines like? Because that is actually a question I have on here. Are submarines like? Because we heard about the was it last year where the scientists drowned in the submarine? They went too low.
Ah, okay,
Are
yeah.
submarines like
The
only
ocean
government
cage.
vehicles, or can like just anyone buy a submarine?
Well, yeah,
Like
so there are
I
different.
know the military has the war submarines or whatever you want to call them,
Mhm.
what you would be on,
Right, right.
but how does that work?
So yeah, there are different kinds. Is there's military submersible ships, and then there are also commercial submersibles, kind of like how Ocean Gates use it. It's not secret technology. I mean, the first submarine recorded was invented during the Revolutionary War
Mm,
and they called it the Turtle, and it was made out of cast iron. It's pretty big. It's about 8 feet tall, and it was almost shaped like an egg, and
mm,
it was created by this guy named David Bushnell, and he was using it to help defeat the British, right? Because at that time we did not like them very much, and so he got
yeah.
in it, and it was powered by a crankshaft and pedals. So he would pedal it, and he like steered it with a little rudder, and it had a keg of gunpowder strapped to the front of it, and he scooted on up to a British ship and it exploded along with the submarine. So like it didn't really work that well. But
Huh.
so submarine technology, or at least the basic fundamentals of it, isn't secret. Anybody can make a submarine. It's just
Hmm.
the military adds some extra fun stuff to it.
Okay. Like missiles and stuff like that, you know?
A lot more than just missiles, but yes.
I would imagine. I would imagine. Well, that's cool.
Mhm.
I didn't know submarines dated back that long ago.
Oh yeah, and that's the earliest documentation we have of them. There could have been another one.
Hmm. I mean, if you're like a bucket on your head and go underwater, would that count as a submarine, you know? Or just
Well, there was, I think it was made in Greenland, somewhere around that part of the world. There was a diving suit made out of like
mhm.
goat skin, and you could kind of count that. It's not a submersible, but you could go underwater in it, and that was
That's
made in
cool.
like the I want to say the 1600s. So pretty early.
That's really cool, actually.
I know. It looks terrifying though. It looks like some sort of torture device.
Wow. You're talking about that submarine with the gunpowder on the end of it. Kind of reminds you of in Sea of Thieves, you have a rowboat with a powder keg at the end of it and go into an enemy ship.
I mean, it's the easiest way, you know.
Yeah,
You gotta get the job done.
yeah, true. Let me see, what else do I have here? How does boot camp? How does Navy boot camp work?
Well, Navy boot camp, I haven't been to any other boot camp, so I can't really speak on like the Army or the Air
Hmm.
Force, but it was a lot different than what I thought it would be. Because when I
Yeah.
was asking the recruiters questions and looking things up online, I thought, man, I'm gonna be doing like 3 to 4 intense workouts every day. I'm gonna be hiking until my legs fall off. I'm gonna be outside all the time. Gonna get sunburnt. You know how you would
Mhm.
see in like a one of those older boot camp movies, like Striped or Major Payne, stuff like that.
Yeah.
For the Navy, like the first 5 days I was there, I never even saw grass. Like I never saw the outside world because
Wow.
each building in boot camp is referred to as a ship, right? Because they're trying to get you used to the idea of being on a ship, because that's the Navy. And so we were on this ship they called the USS Pearl Harbor, and like literally, I didn't even get to see the outside until 5 days after I'd gotten there.
Wow.
And a majority of your time actually is spent inside. The only time you're really going to be outside is if you're marching from one place to the other, or if your RDC hates you and just wants to make you suffer. And then RDC is like a drill sergeant. They call it a recruit drill commander.
Mm.
And they do all the things you would expect. There is some firearm training, but it's only in handguns, because being in the Navy, the kind of guns you use require multiple people to operate. Like, talking things that blow up buildings and send other ships to Davy Jones' locker. Like, if you
All
ever
right.
get into it, unless you're like a Navy SEAL or some sort of ground combatant, if you ever get into like a gunfight on a ship, then like you've screwed up terribly.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's that. There's a lot of emphasis on tradition. So a lot of the things that you do are based off of things that the Navy has always done. The Navy is deeply rooted in the things that their forefathers have done, right? So
Hmm.
there's a lot of drill. Like I was what they called the RPOC, and that's the Recruit Chief Petty Officer. You're like the the leader of the division, um, recruit wise. And
Is
so
that why
I
you
had
had
to.
the sword in that one picture?
That's right. Yes. So they gave
All
me a
right.
cutlass.
Uh-huh.
And whenever I was marching, I would have to, march with it by my side. And if an officer came by, I'd have to bring it up to here and then bring it down my side as a salute, as a
Hmm.
polite gesture. Because if you didn't do that, stand by because you're going to feel some pain. But a lot of stuff like that, and like pretty much all the drill you're working on is in preparation for graduation day because they want it to look nice. You're
Yeah.
spending weeks away from your family. You got to show off a little bit.
Hmm.
And then they also had this thing at the very end they call battle stations, which is just the summation of everything that you've learned for like damage control. They didn't really have a whole lot with firearms, but like everything that you know about a ship, you're going to put into practice. I can't really talk about specifically what happened because I had to sign a waiver saying that I wouldn't. But let's just say things started off calm. We're just moving, making things happen. And then things go really bad. And then you're basically just trying to keep the ship alive and like not die.
All right.
But
Well,
overall, it was okay. It was more challenging mentally than it was physically.
I feel like I could imagine that. That makes sense. So how
Mhm.
did you what'd you say that's called that you are with the sword?
The recruit chief petty officer, or the
Recruit chief
RPOC for short.
petty officer. Okay. So did they assign you to that or did you request like how do you become that?
So I kind of became the RPOC by accident. What
Oh,
happened is
right.
like the first like 2 days, nobody has a leadership position because the RDCs are just yelling at you and just trying to get you used to being in the military, right?
Mhm.
But then they're like, okay, well, we can't do this all ourselves. So they start assigning positions. And at first, they were they chose one of the females in my division to be the RPOC. I think her name was Luhan, and she was doing her job, and then she's like, all right, now we need somebody to be the A-Rock, which is, I forget exactly what that is. That's like the leading petty officer. And they are the person that assists the RPOC. They're like a second in command, and they also do cadences for marching, like the things like one, two, 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 or three, or four, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And uh the our one of our RDCs, our third RDC, was going around. It's like, okay, we need somebody to be the A-Rock, and then she looked at me. She's like, "You, Liszeski, you wanting to be that, right?" And I was like, Sure." I was really shy. I was still just trying to get acclimated to my environment,
Just
and
trying
I
to
just took
survive, you
it.
know?
I was trying to not die.
Yeah.
Thank God I didn't. But then I was like, sure. And they're like, and they got everybody in a line around the compartment because it's not like the army where you have like a barracks building. It's like you are in a berthing space, like as you would be in a
Mm.
ship, in a part of a
Alright.
bigger building or a ship. So we were in our compartment, lined everybody up, and we started like marching around. And they're like, okay, Lazeski, A Rock, start doing cadence. And I'm like, I've never done this in my life. And I was like, how do I do it? She's like, just start singing numbers. I'm like, one, two, three, four, one, two, three, four. It was terrible. And honestly, all my time spent in choir basically meant nothing at this point. I was like, I don't remember anything. Like for the first 3 days, I'd say I was pretty brain dead. I didn't know anything. It's like everything I once learned was gone.
Yeah.
And so the next day, I was fired. And they fired the RPOC as well. They're like, RPOC, you're fired. And my third RDC looked at me. He's like, hey, Rock, I'm sorry, but you suck. You're fired. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I went into the
Too much
bathroom.
pressure.
I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I was ready to do it. I just needed time to learn. And I was even kind of
Yeah.
getting excited because like I learned songs from like Boy Scouts. I'm like, okay, I could turn this into a cadence. That'd be kind of fun.
Hmm.
Like there's this one about the cutest worm. I'm like, imagine all of us sailors singing about a worm.
I've seen some pretty funny songs they've sang on YouTube
Oh
Shorts and stuff.
yeah, there's a lot of them are fun. Some of them are kind of boring. You just sing it because
Hmm.
you have to. And the point of a cadence is to keep you in step, right, and making you look nice. But there are
Yeah.
some that are really fun. But I was fired, and then I went into the bathroom, and I didn't cry, but I was upset, and I just needed like a few seconds to be alone. And then I
Hmm.
start hearing people call my name, like Liszeski, get back out here. I'm like, oh crap. So I run outside, and then I already see she's still standing there. She's like, "Good job, Liszeski. You have been promoted to RPOC." Like, okay,
It's
just
like,
kind of
all
thrown
right.
on to me,
Yeah.
and so that's how I became RPOC. Is just by accident, I guess. I didn't throw my hat into the ring. It was just bestowed upon me,
Mm.
and I was told that I wasn't a half decent leader because typically if you're bad that they fire you, but I was the RPOC the whole time. And so at the very least I was slightly above average.
Nice.
I
So
know.
do you think they did any of that like intentionally, like the hiring and then firing? Like they knew people weren't going to be able to like do it off rip or something, or do you
Yeah,
think it was just like a
so
fluke?
well, they typically try to choose people who they think will do terribly because the whole job of an RDC is to tear you down, rip you apart, make you
Mm,
feel like you're the worst human in the world. And then once they've gotten you to ground zero, then they build you up into what the Navy wants you to be, right? Which is a
mhm.
great a great
Yeah,
sailor. Sorry about that. And so I feel like since I just came off so shy in the beginning, they're like, this guy. And another reason why I was chosen is because my third RDC was like, I normally choose the tallest people, and I just so happened to be like the second tallest person there.
that's funny. So do you
And
think since you were the called the RPOC or something like
RPOC.
that? Since
Hmm.
you were the RPOC the whole time, do you think you're like you said you're above average, but did they expect you to last that long, or they were planning on firing you again if you didn't succeed?
They did
Like with
threaten to
another
fire me several times.
all right.
So there were some moments where I thought, man, I'm about to lose my job. And like they were all over simple things like going to chow, going to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner. You think, oh, it's easy. You just go and eat chow. No. There's a there is a process for everything. And if you don't do it right, you're wrong and you better stand by because you're about to get beat. And so like literally you go there, you have to line up in like two columns and then you have to call the division to attention. And then, oh my gosh, it's been so long since I've been there, but like you have to like it's like you have a script that you have to memorize in your head. You have to go down each single checkpoint. You have to talk with the yeoman, be like, "Yeoman, where are we sitting?" They're like, "We're sitting at tables 5 and 6, starting on the port side of 6, utilizing both chow lines." Be like, "Okay," and then you have to put that back towards the division. And if you mess that up, you're done. You're cooked. And so
Yeah.
there were a lot of times I would almost be fired over that. At one point, an RDC was in my face, like you would see in the movies. Like,
Yeah.
do I need to find someone else? Are you gonna do it right this time? Just yes, petty officer, I will. But no, I thought that my leadership skills were improved because of it. You
Nice.
definitely needed to be confident, and my confidence has improved since then. So I thought I did decently well.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah.
Why do they call them petty officers? Because they're like
So
yelling in your face, being all petty the whole time, or is there an actual reason?
There were a lot of times that I thought, man, you really put the petty in petty officer. But I never said it because I didn't want to die. But the reason they call them that is so there's different rankings, right? You have seaman recruit, seaman apprentice, and then seaman. Those are all your junior enlisted. And then you have petty officer third class through first class. And what it means is petty, one of the definitions just means small. And so you're a small officer. And so you're not an officer in the sense of like you're commissioned. Like you don't have as much, I guess, prestige as an actual officer would, but you have enough responsibility to where you are recognized as a lesser officer, right? Because the
Hmm.
higher you go, the more responsibilities you have. So you have petty officer third class through first class, and then you have chief petty officer, and then senior chief, and then master chief. And so it's like
Master Chief?
you're not. Yeah, literally, you can be master chief from Halo. Hey,
I
don't let
did not
anybody
know
else
that.
tell
That's
you
actually
otherwise.
sick.
Halo is a Navy game, okay? That might be also one of the other inspirations for me joining the Navy. I can be Master Chief one day.
That's sick.
But that's why they call it a petty officer, because like you're not an officer, but you have enough responsibility to have similar respect that an officer would receive.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. Man, I didn't know you could be Master Chief in real life, man.
You can be like you can be a Navy SEAL and achieve the rank of Master Chief and basically just be Master Chief.
Just be Master Chief without the added height and steroids.
Without the steroids, the drugs, the indoctrination, the armor, the
Yeah, the
aliens.
the
So
forced
pretty much
orphanship.
everything you can be Master Chief except for all the things that make Master Chief Master Chief.
All right.
Pretty
That's
much.
cool. You could have the armor though
You can have the armor. It might not be functional,
as
or it
effective.
might be made out of foam. I've seen
Yeah.
that though. It looks pretty
Mhm.
cool.
Mhm. Yeah. You know, I was thinking earlier, out of all the people, that RCAP is what you said it's called? RPOC.
Arpak.
RPOC. It would be you. You'd be the one with the sword.
I that so listen. I'm human, right?
Yeah.
And I want to have the brightest intentions, right? And I did,
Mhm.
when I was at was like, I want to be a great leader. Like going in, I already knew that that was one of the leadership positions you can have because like they give you a start guide and they're like, here are all the different things that you can be while in boot camps. Like, ooh, I want that. One, because I want to be a great leader. I want to lead people to success.
Mhm.
But I heard that you get a sword. And I was like,
Yeah.
I gotta show off to my family that I am the guy with the sword. The only guy with the sword, mind you.
Yeah. I mean,
Nobody else got to
man
have
need
one.
sword, man want sword.
Exactly. And listen, I know I'm supposed to be selfless, but during graduation day, I felt so cool. It's like, that's right. I have a sword.
Yeah. No, I remember when
No big
Jonathan
deal though.
posted
It's
you.
okay. Everybody has swords.
Yeah,
Except
I remember when Jonathan posted you on Instagram, like your graduation thing. I was like looking, like I had Noah with me. We were like looking, trying to find. He was like, "Is he the one with the sword?" We zoomed in. He's the one with the sword.
I
That's
got
so
the
cool. He has a
sword.
sword. Sword.
It was so cool. And like
It
you're
looked really
supposed to
cool.
take care of it, right? And so they gave me this stuff and it's supposed to shine it. And when they first
Mhm.
gave it to me, it was literally covered in rust. And they gave me this stuff. I forget what it was called, but it was essentially just like cotton coated in this oily kind of mixture, and it's supposed to clean it up and make it shiny. And every single day, I would polish that thing and just get it all nice. And so I was like, graduation day, that thing, I want to blind people with this sword.
Brighter than the sun, baby.
That's right.
Yeah, that's cool. So, are
But
you
it was fun.
still considered RPOC?
No, so that's only while you're in boot camp. Once you're out of boot camp,
Okay.
it doesn't really matter anymore. Now I'm just
Yeah.
some guy. But it was
Okay.
fun.
Did you get to keep the sword?
No, I had to.
Oh,
No, that it gets passed down to whatever division gets it next.
okay. It gets passed down and covered in rust again, I would assume.
Yeah, pretty much. But if you make the rank of chief, which is pretty high up, it's E7 out of 9, then you are I don't think you're required, but you have the option to buy a chief's cutlass. And
Hmm,
depending on the situation and what uniform you're wearing, you can actually wear it.
that's cool.
It's mainly with like a dress uniform, for a formal
Yeah, I
occasion.
would imagine. That's cool. Have you seen that one video of the guy talking about how girls, when they get engaged, wear like engagement rings, but guys have like nothing to show they're engaged? And he was saying that we need to
Yeah.
start walking around with swords.
It's like,
My
sword of mine.
engagement sword.
You know what? If I make chief before I get married, I'll wear my sword to my wedding.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
There's a chance. Some people, it on average, it takes the average sailor to make chief in about 12 years if they stay that long. But
Hmm,
if you're really good and you're on top of your job every step of the way, you can make. Some people have made it in 5 years.
wow.
And being on a submarine, you are more likely to promote. So hey, maybe that could be me. 5 years from now, I'll have a cool little sword. Be like, listen, ma'am, I'm very marriage material. I mean, look at my sword.
Yeah. You present
And
her
then
ring on the tip of the sword.
exactly. And then, happily ever after. It's like, that was easy.
Hmm. That's cool. So what does it take to become a, I don't know, to get on a submarine?
So it's different than being on a regular ship. Not
Mhm.
everybody can be on a submarine because
Yeah.
there's a bunch of factors that go into it. There are certain height requirements. I'm surprised that I met them because I'm pretty tall. And there are people even taller than me who are in the submarine community. I'm like, that's surprising. So there's that. There's
All right.
also they do even a more rigorous background investigation than they would on anybody else because in the Navy, most people have to have a secret clearance because and it's not just because of the things they're working on, but like any ship is capable of having secret knowledge on it, right? So
Mhm.
everybody has to have some sort of a clearance. But on a submarine, as soon as you go underway, like the whole submarine becomes a top secret environment because sometimes submarines go to places that the public doesn't need to know about, right?
Mhm.
And so, and you're not supposed to share that. You're like, it's like, oh, where'd you go on your deployment? The ocean. It's like that's about all you can say.
Yeah.
And so there's that. There's also a psychic evaluation that everybody has to go through. Be like, are you mentally capable of being on a submarine? Because think about it. You are literally underneath the surface of the ocean for months at a
Mhm.
time. Like the one of my instructors here said the longest amount of time they were ever just straight underneath the ocean, never came up, was over 100 days. And so
Wow.
it takes a special kind of somebody to be able to do that and not go insane.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
And so those are the main things. So, and being on a submarine, you are considered special forces. You're not like
Mm.
special forces like a Navy SEAL or an Army Ranger, but special forces in the sense of you go and do secret operations that hardly anybody is allowed to even know about.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm blessed to be where I'm at.
So you are on a like not now, not currently. You're not on a submarine. Are you on a submarine right now?
No, I have to complete my training first. If this is
Okay.
this would be a really nice submarine. No,
Yeah. Got some pretty spacious
but
ceilings for a submarine.
no, you're not looking at any kind of space. Like I
Yeah.
walked onto one because like whenever you first get to where I'm at, which is Groton, Connecticut, this is the submarine school of the Navy. I'm pretty sure it's like the only one. And one of the prerequisites before you begin your schooling is you have to go do a boat tour. You have to go tour a submarine because, like, there's the land, and then right down by the river is like it's a submarine base. So actively used submarines come in port here, refuel on supplies and stuff,
Mm.
and then they go off and do their thing. So you have to go to a submarine, and be like, "Hey, can we walk around for a bit?" Be like, "Yeah, sure." And the ceiling was like literally right here.
Man.
And that is where it was the most spacious.
So you're gonna be like ducking and crawling through some places?
Depending on where I'm at, for the most part, I won't have to duck my head. But like whenever you're going through a doorway, you have to go underneath. And part of my job, I will be a sonar technician, and you have to
Mhm.
go repair and do maintenance on the various arrays that can receive the data, and you have to crawl in there and be like, okay, this is looking okay. I need to replace this. And so there can be some pretty tight spaces.
Hmm. Do you ever have to do any like outside maintenance on the sub, or does
No, so
that
that's
all
not
happen
our.
like when it's docked or whatever?
So that is a it's a collateral duty, and it's done by like there are Navy divers. Like that is their job. They are a diver for the Navy. And so the divers, they will go and do some outside maintenance on the boat. And you can also become scuba qualified to where you can do similar things as a diver would, but you're not like as qualified. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so it's kind of a collateral duty. It's not your main job, but you can do it on top of it. But it's mainly the diver's job to do stuff like that.
All right,
Mhm.
that's neat. So
There.
I would assume you wouldn't ever leave the sub. Like, I would you ever leave the submarine? I would assume not. While
Well,
it's underwater.
no, no. So the only time you would ever
Gotta be
do that
specific.
is no. So the only time you would ever do that is if you're a Navy SEAL and you're doing an operation, right? They gotta
Mhm.
leave the sub while it's submerged,
Okay.
or if you're trying to escape. Those are the only reasons why you would ever leave. And
Mhm.
hope you pray to God that you never have to, because if you do, you're at a depth that would make it very difficult to survive, right? They have
I would
these
imagine.
specialized suits that you go inside of, and they inflate, and they literally shoot you to the top. And
Mm.
from what they described to me, and like there's a short school that you had to go to is learning about how to evacuate a submarine. It is possible for you to survive, but not likely.
Not likely.
But yeah, those are the only two reasons you would ever leave while you're under
Yeah.
the water.
So you're basically just like swimming around in a underwater coffin,
Well,
kinda.
yes and no. From what it was
If there's
just
a threat nearby, maybe.
how it was described to me, the submarine, while you're inside of it, is actively trying to kill you, and it is your job to make sure that it doesn't. Because
Alright.
if one pipe bursts, the whole thing could
Mm.
send you to heaven. Or yeah, it's crazy,
The other
but
one.
pretty the other option. But honestly, it shouldn't scare anybody because if you know what you're doing, you know your job well, you trust everybody else that they know what they're doing, it shouldn't be a problem. Because one of the things I had to do, it was called the damage control simulator. They put you in the room that's laid out kind of how a submarine would be, like the engine room. And you're in there, you're just kind of walking around, and then pipes just start bursting open. And you have a certain amount of time to fix all of them. And they train you how to fix them. There are these things called strongbacks, which is
Mhm.
basically just a solid rounded metal plate that you use with a chain wrench. And like you just fasten that thing to whatever the leak is. They also have this stuff called marlin, which is tar infused rope where you wrap it around a leak. And because it's infused with the tar, it will act as a sealant and it'll stop the leak. And so
Hmm.
even if something does go wrong, they train you how to fix it so you don't die. Because, unlike a surface ship, if something goes bad, you can't call for help. It's either you
Yeah.
fix it or you die.
Exciting.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
why a lot of submariners go to therapists, but I haven't been underway yet. So as of right now, I don't need one.
Well, I'll be praying for you when you do.
Please. I might come to you for help.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But yeah, it's all these things. It's like it sounds stressful, but they're clearly is something to it that people enjoy. Because one of the Master Chiefs here on base, they calculated the total amount of time that they've spent like underwater in a submarine, and it added up to around 7 years. It's like seven
Wow.
years of his life was in a submarine under the water. So like there's something about it that people like.
Hmm. That's cool.
Very.
So how, let me try to think how I word this question. What are after, what are your goals in the Navy? Obviously, getting in a submarine, but
Right.
like, how long are you planning on staying, or are you just kind of playing it out? What are you wanting to do once you leave the Navy, if you leave the Navy? Like, kind of like your
Right.
dreams or goals type thing, you know?
So that is a very interesting question. I'm caught as of right now. I'm caught up between three different options.
All
Right.
right.
Um. So originally I wanted to join as a chaplain, as you know, but then
Mm-hmm.
I looked at how long it would literally take me 10 plus years of just training and schooling before I would even get to do the job of a chaplain. So I was like, that's too long. I want to get in
Yeah.
now. So submarines was clearly the next best option.
Yeah.
But so then I gave that up. But while I was in, boot camp, I was still dreaming about that. Like, okay, I'm gonna get through this contract. I'm gonna get a bachelor's degree, and then they have a program to where you can, like, the Navy will pay for you to become like a pastor. Like they'll pay for your seminary school, and
Mm.
then they'll send you to officer candidate school and all that stuff. And then eventually, once you have enough experience, they'll be like, okay, now do your job, but in the Navy. And so I was dreaming about that. I was like, okay, that's my plan. I'm gonna do it.
Hmm.
But you know, I've had a lot of time just in my thoughts to reflect. And as you know, I love music a whole lot.
Yeah.
And being a
Hmm.
chaplain, it's not that I could never use music, but it wouldn't be my top priority, right? It'd just be like
Hmm.
more like a hobby on the side. But recently, Jonathan, he has
Yeah.
an amazing voice. He sounds a lot like Michael Bublé, and
Hmm.
that's the kind of stuff that he wants to do. He wants to do covers of older songs and make them more pop and jazz like, and even wants to write some of his own. And I won't go into it, but there's a lot of things in my life that have happened that I feel like God was pushing me, not pushing me, but leading me rather, towards doing something in the ministry that involved music.
Hmm.
And so then I was like, oh, well, what if I do this contract, get out, get a bachelor's degree in like music, and then
Hmm.
write songs for Jonathan, and then I have no doubt in my mind that he would just blow up like that.
Yeah.
Post
Jonathan's
videos
great.
on. Oh yeah, and like I'm not even saying that because I'm his brother. Like
No, I
objectively,
can
he has
I
an
can vouch
amazing
for
voice.
for him.
Right. And so I
Hmm.
was like, okay, I'll make music for him and I can use that as my ministry, right?
Yeah.
Write some jazz and pop and then write some worship music as well, right? Because I don't have to limit myself to just one genre.
Hmm.
But then, I was torn between those two. I was like, man, which one should I do? So I reached out to one of my older friends at my church. She's very wise. And so I was like, what should I do? And she's like, well, why couldn't you do both? So that's the third option. Is like, well, how would that work? So that's, as of right now, those are the things I'm thinking about. Should I
Hmm.
just pursue being just a chaplain? Should I do my time in the Navy, get out and do music with my brother? Or do a combination of the two? And
Yeah.
so if you would, please pray, that God would lead me to where he wants me to go.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's cool. I
Yeah.
I think music would be a cool thing to like, I don't know. I don't think I'm talented enough to have music as like a full-time career or anything, but I really enjoy I'm like you and Jonathan. I really enjoy music. Like when we
Oh
get
yeah.
together and sing, like that is some of the, like when I graduated and we like had that big shanty circle and everything. That is like one
Right.
of my fondest memories with y'all, or just in general even. That was
Hmm.
really cool. And I could totally see you and Jonathan doing something in y'all's lives with music.
Right,
Like,
like just last night,
definitely.
just last night I wrote a chorus to a song that I think he would enjoy singing because I was like,
Yeah.
he wants something kind of jazz, kind of pop. I was like, perfect, and I just came up with something like that.
Mhm. That's
Like,
cool.
but yeah, that's what I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah. I feel like where I'm at right now, I'm kind of limited with what I can do with music because I don't wanna, like, play or sing too loud because I have neighbors literally above me and on the other side of the wall.
Right.
So, I don't wanna, like, disturb them, but
Well, it's a
I
good
I
thing
still
you're a
try to play.
bass, so you're sing kind
I
of
mean,
lower.
that's true, but I feel like bass's voices, like, have more vibration and kinda travel through walls.
Mm.
You might not be able to understand or even recognize that there's words or music coming out of that mouth, but you still feel, like, the vibration of it, I guess, like, I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, my shower has really good acoustics, and singing those really low sea
Mine
shanties
does
in there is
too.
pretty fun.
Oh yeah, like sometimes when I can hit low notes, I'll sing something like, oh, that sounds.
Mhm. At work, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I was in the car and I was just listening to, like, my music on shuffle, and the Valhalla Calling song came on,
Mhm.
and I instantly was like, "Man, I need to sing this with DJ and Jonathan and get a few other people in there with us." Like, next time you're in town, we need to meet up with some other people and just sing songs.
Well, hey, I'll tell you this. If me and Jonathan ever end up doing music full time and we make it big, you are more than welcome to join us.
Alright. I can do a feature in one song.
Yeah, be like, we got like a cameo.
Yeah, we gotta have a you can have a random, like, really low part, just a hum in one spot, and I can be that hum.
Right, if we ever come through town, we just have you in one of our shows, be like, hey, we know this nerd. Yeah, we used to be in a
Yeah.
choir with them.
Just coming up, "Hey, we need someone to hum this really low note for, like, 30 seconds." Like, just 30 seconds, one song. I'm your man.
Yeah, we'll give you VIP tickets and everything.
Awesome, awesome.
You and the lady.
Yeah, and the lady. Hey, almost 100 days, 100 and, like, 12 days, something like that? It's coming
That's
up.
good. Yeah,
Mhm.
you're gonna have to send me some pictures and videos.
I will, I will. You and Jonathan are both invited. I don't know if you'll be able to make it for obvious reasons.
There's a good chance I'll be on a submarine by that time, but if I can, I
Yeah.
will.
Well, if you're on submarine, you'll when you get out, you'll know.
Yeah,
You'll have all
I'll
the pictures
receive
and
them.
stuff waiting. I'd assume you don't get
Right.
signal way under the water.
No, not at
Yeah.
all.
So, since you're in the Navy, like, I associate sea shanties with the sea, and the Navy is
Mhm.
in the sea. Are there any, like, Navy sea shanties or anything? If so, have
So
you learned any?
the closest thing to a sea shanty would be the Anchors Away, which is like the
Mhm.
Navy's theme song, but that's not really a sea shanty. And to my surprise, when I got to boot camp, sea shanties actually weren't that big of a thing.
Hmm.
I mean, I sang a few and some other people did as well, but like that wasn't really a focus.
Yeah.
But no, there's more just cadences and
Mhm.
older big band kind of style songs.
Mm.
But I still find myself singing sea shanties.
Yeah, me too. Even I can go months without even listening to one, but, like, just in the back of my mind, it'll just pop out of nowhere, you know?
Right. No, I've been starting to kind of rewrite one of the sea shanties we've sang before. Like I've been
Mhm.
roaming all my life and now I found
Yeah,
a ladybug. You know that song?
yeah.
Well, I was like, well, whenever I do eventually like settle down and find a wife, I'll if I'm in the Navy at that time, or like I'll probably be close to getting out at that time. But I was like, man, I want to rewrite this song to where it kind of like makes sense. Like I want to stay on the shore with you, my darling. And so I kind of came up with songs
Mhm.
like, when I was 20, I sailed through the sea in a big old metal submarine. I'm staying right here. I was like, man,
That's
that sounds pretty
cool.
fun.
I like that. That's neat. I've tried to rewrite a few songs. I kind of rewrote this one song, for My Lovely Lady, and
Ooh.
I don't know if I've ever actually sang it somewhere or not, but there is a song that I'm currently trying to rewrite, which is a song that we both it's like I don't know if I wanna say it's our song, but it's the song she sings with me, if that makes sense.
Oh, gotcha.
Like, we both enjoy singing it, and we have really good harmony when we sing it type thing. So,
Good.
like, anytime, like, I'll just play the intro and she'll, like, look at me like, "That's our song," that kinda thing. I've been kinda trying to rewrite that song. It's about,
Maybe,
the original song is about missing someone you haven't met, so I'm trying to kinda, like, rewrite it to say, like, how do you miss someone even though they're, like, right in front of you? Does that make sense?
yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Hmm,
It's,
that's something.
it'll be interesting. We'll see how it goes.
Keep me updated. Maybe it could be something that you share at your wedding.
Yeah, maybe, maybe. I feel like she might, like, not appreciate that. You never know.
Only one way to find out.
That's true, that is true. I've been thinking a lot about making kinda like how you did with the one song in choir. Your, what was that song called that you wrote and sang and won? You know what I'm talking
Oh
about?
yeah, me and Thomas wrote it. I called it Overcome.
Overcome. Yeah. It was kinda like sea shanty vibes, but more like gospel, you know?
Ooh,
I was thinking it'd be cool to, like, make some songs like that with, like, the
absolutely.
help of you and Jonathan, you know?
Mhm.
I think that'd be really cool.
Honestly, it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be, writing all those different parts. It was more just
Mhm.
like it just took forever. I was like, man, this is
Yeah.
this is a lot. Because you put one note in there like by itself, like, okay, this sounds great. And then you put it with like other parts, like, oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not any good at that, so
It took a
I can come
while.
up with
Me
words, but making notes, that's a whole different
for
thing. I
me
have
it's
no
the
expertise in.
for me it's the opposite. I can't really it's not that I can't, but I'm better at making melodies and chord progressions than I am writing words.
Mhm. I feel like with me, but I don't really know, it's probably like this with a lot of people, but I get a lot of inspiration from other songs, I guess,
Think
which I guess that's how all music is made,
right.
or anything in general. I guess you get inspired by something and it causes you to do something else, and it could be,
There's n-
you know,
right.
that's just how
There's
life
nothing
works
new under the
generally.
sun. Right.
But I will like I don't really wanna say freestyle because that sounds more like hip hop,
Right.
but I like be strumming my guitar and I'll, like, figure out a new chord progression or, like, strum a different pattern I've never strummed before. I'm like, "That sounds really cool." I'll, like, try to come up with words with it. And I normally come up with, like, a tune before I come up with words, so then it makes it harder on myself to find
Right.
words that fit. But when I
Hmm.
don't know, I feel it's really cool. And I have fun doing that.
I do something similar. Like I'll be able to come up with a chord progression first, and then it's like, okay, if I write words, then I can put the melody to the words and not be limited to
Mhm.
how it's written, right? But people
Yeah,
do it different and people still make great songs.
yeah. My problem is everything I write sounds like a chorus. And so, like, right, so they was like, "This is gonna be a great first verse." So I'm, like, playing it and singing it. I was like, "That sounds like a chorus. Okay, I gotta save that for a chorus, and I gotta make the first verse." So make the new first verse is like, it just sounds like another chorus.
Same here. I can write a chorus first, but then it's like, well, now I gotta write the rest of the song.
Yeah, it's a problem. A lot of people come up with I will, like, come up with the chords and, like, the guitar or the music, I guess you could say, and then I try to put words to music when most people say you should come up with the music or the words and then put the music to it, but I have such a hard time trying to do that. Like, I don't know. I need the music to find the words, I guess.
people do it different. I've done it both ways because I've written
Yeah.
several songs, and some of them I've had the music first and then the lyrics. Some of them I've had the lyrics first, then the music. It's like, well, it just depends
Mhm.
on your style.
Yeah, it sure does. Um, ooh, here's a good one. What is something positive you've learned or, like, discovered throughout your time in the Navy?
Something positive. Well, it's this is going to sound negative, but it
Okay.
has helped me have a more positive view on things, oddly enough. And the Navy is terrible when it comes to a lot of things,
Yeah.
like communication. There were some times where, like in boot camp, and it's not really fair to harp on boot camp because it's supposed to be awful, but like my one RDC would tell me to do one thing, I would do it, and then another RDC would tell me to do a different thing, and that I was wrong for doing it this way. But I was like, petty officers, like, I don't care, you're doing my way. It's like, okay.
Mhm.
And like even outside of boot camp, it's like there were like we I had to move rooms to a completely different barracks building. And like it was a whole ordeal. Like literally hundreds of people were moving that day.
Mm.
And there was a moment in time I thought, I'm gonna be homeless because the person I was supposed to swap rooms with was separated from the Navy. So I didn't get a room key from them. And so
Mm.
literally I had everything packed in my car and I was like, man, I guess I'm just sleeping in my car tonight. But luckily, I
Wow.
managed to get a room, and it's just stuff like that. Just it absolutely infuriates me.
Mhm.
But then I was like, okay, I need to have a positive perspective about this. And what I've been learning and experiencing firsthand is people aren't perfect, and so
Mhm.
it wouldn't be fair of me to hold people to that kind of standard when I can't even uphold that myself. And
Yeah.
so something positive I've learned is despite, everybody's imperfections in the Navy, because we're all human, we all fall short of the glory of God.
Mhm.
We all, for the most part, manage to work together and keep this country free. And I think that is a really beautiful thing that we as humans are even capable of doing that.
Mhm. That's good.
Yeah,
That's a that is a good way to see positive on it. I've always considered you a very positive person. Like, I
I
know I've
try.
I've come to you, like, multiple times, and I've been, like, in the dumps for
Mm.
encouragement, so
Trust me, man, I've had my days. There are some days
yeah.
where I look like I'm just some emo goth kid who hates everybody and I never would have thought that, going into the Navy, but like I'm gonna be happy go lucky, everything's gonna be fine. But there have literally been days I've cried, I've yelled at people because it's not easy, but it's just
Mhm.
learning from your mistakes and your experiences and using them to do better going forward, even if it is difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Here's another question. This is one I thought of, was that Tuesday that we spoke? Our little mic test?
I
I believe it
th-
was Tuesday.
Sometime this week, yeah.
Yeah, sometime earlier this week. Um, what is your, like, day-to-day life like? How? Because I know you take night classes, and I would assume
Mhm.
that it's not considered work, and you work in the morning, like, and your classes you get out at 12 midnight?
Mhm.
Yeah, so how is that all, like, what's your schedule like? Because that's gotta be pretty demanding on you. Go to
It's
bed that
actually
early, and I
not.
would imagine I mean, not that you know what I'm trying to say.
I do, and it's not as bad as you would think. So as of right now, with my night schedule, my work is my class, and so
Mm,
my class starts at 5:30 in the evening, and then it can go. On paper, it says it's supposed to go to 11, but a lot of times, most of the time, we get out at like midnight or sometimes even 1 in the morning. And
Oh
so that's
wow.
my work. And so once I get home from class, say I sleep 8 hours, get up at like 9, I have from 9 a.m. to 5:30 to do whatever I want. And so
Okay.
it's like that's my off time, right?
Hmm.
And so like you have what they call your liberty status, right? Because since you're a student, you don't enjoy the same freedoms that the senior enlisted enjoy, right? Because they're staff, they have a little more respect, a little more freedom, and so they give you what's called a liberty card. It's kind of hard to see,
I
but
see it.
this
I
is
see it.
my liberty, right? But this is my liberty card, and there are three different levels of it. There's the red card, white card, and blue card. Blue card is the best one you can have. You are allowed to leave base whenever you want. You just have to be back for your classes. You are allowed to wear civilian clothing while you're not on the job, so while you're not in class, and you just have a lot of freedom. You can drive a car. And white card is a little more stingent. Like during the week, you have to wear a military uniform. You are allowed to go off base, but you have to be back by like 10 o'clock. And but so it's good, but not as great as blue card. But then red card is like you, no matter what, you always have to be in some kind of military uniform, even if it's just your workout gear. You cannot leave base. You have to be in your barracks by 8 p.m. and that's awful. And you start off on that and have to work your way up to blue card. Sometimes they'll give red card to people if they mess up. If they
Hmm.
do something that they're not supposed to do.
Yeah. So you have blue card?
I do. I do.
Nice. About making his way up.
I tried to get that as fast as I could. I'm like, I am not going to be stuck on this base. I was stuck on the base for I want to say about a month before I got my blue card.
Okay, so it didn't take that long to get.
No, and I went off base while I was on white card, but it felt much better being have the blue card be like, I don't have to be back anytime. I just be gone as long as I want, as long as I get back to class on time.
Hmm. That's cool. So your class is the submarine training type thing, or is that something different?
So here at sub school, there are two main schools. They have what they call BES, which is Basic Enlisted Submarine School. And how I would describe it is like learning a whole bunch of trivia fun facts about submarines, just kind of like knowing what there is on it, like how it's laid out. Like, here's all the damage control equipment, here are the different compartments and what they have in them, and here are all the different jobs and responsibilities on a submarine, stuff like that. And then you pass through that, and then you go to what's called your A school, your Ascension School. And that is your job, or in the Navy, they call it your rate. And mine, I am a sonar tech, STS, sonar tech submarines. And I am learning how to operate and do maintenance on the sonar equipment on board a submarine.
Hmm.
And then once you graduate your A school, they can either send you to a C school, which is kind of like just extra training, or most of the time they just send you directly to a submarine.
So it's like a dolphin training camp.
Kinda.
Yeah. Anytime I hear sonar, they just think of dolphins. So
I mean, it does operate somewhat like that. I mean, dolphins, they
yeah.
do kind of use sonar. I made a list. Like, I went to the computer in my class and I wrote down all the different things that I could talk about, and I have them written here. And it's four things.
It's four things.
It's kind of dark, but like I can talk
Have you
about
talked about
four.
these four things?
No, I haven't.
Proceed.
Okay, so one thing is the physics of sound underwater. It's actually really fascinating, and I encourage anybody to look it up and just how it works. And so, sound.
Mhm.
At least for me, I thought, okay, it's vibrations in the air. I knew that, But I thought it was just sound goes from here and it goes straight and it just goes. But in water, and sometime depending on the circumstances in the air as well, sound can bend. So think of it
Mhm.
this way, right? Let's say there's a person here and a person here on each side of this pencil and they're level with the pencil, right?
Mhm.
And if we were just in a room, let's say I send a sound wave, I spoke, it would pass by, and this person would be able to receive it, like they heard it. But under the water, sound can bend based off of three different things. It can bend based off of the temperature of the water, the salinity, so the salt in parts per thousand, and the depth of the water. So depending on those three things, you can send a signal from here to here, but it will travel over or under. So like someone right here in between these two targets would
Mhm.
not be able to hear that sound.
Hmm. That's pretty cool. I didn't
And
know that.
and the Navy utilizes that to their advantage
Yeah, I'd
to
imagine.
do stuff.
To do classified information.
Well, to
To
yeah,
share
to just
classified information.
yes. And there's another part of sound which is really fascinating. So like the warmer the water is, the saltier the water is, and the more pressure there is, sound will go faster. But the
Hmm,
lower the temperature, the lower the salinity, and the less pressure, sound will travel slower. And how my
interesting.
instructor described it to me is sound will want to travel to wherever the speed of sound is the slowest. Because he said sound is lazy. So let's say you're at this depth and pretty close to the surface. Let's say the speed of sound is really fast, right? Let's say 5,200 feet per second. Well, you go a little further down, gets a little colder, and gets a little more pressure. The sound was slower, say 4,800 feet per second. Well, if you send a signal up here, that signal will not travel straight, but it will want to travel downward to wherever that sound is the slowest. And
Hmm,
so the Navy will use that to perform certain operations.
that's pretty cool.
I know, right? And
I don't know
it's great.
anything about that, so
Me neither.
that's actually really fascinating to know.
Right. Now, how we use that, it's neither here or there. I can't really touch on that.
Yeah.
But like there's some lessons that we've gone over, like using tactics on how we can use, physics of sound to our advantage. And like
Mhm.
my mind was blown. I'm like, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
And like you can using how sound works, you can put yourself in a situation where your submarine is completely undetectable. Like you cannot be found, no matter if someone's sending a signal out or not.
Mm, that's cool.
How? Great question. Yes, I
Yeah, tell
can't
me how, tell me
answer.
how.
No, but you can utilize that and do fun things.
Yeah, that's cool. I knew sound bounced, but
It does.
that's, like, really common knowledge. I mean, I moved into my apartment with nothing in it. You could whisper and you'd hear it bounce all over the walls, so
Right. The sound can bounce on the bottom of the ocean, or it can even bounce off of the surface of the ocean too. That's why,
hmm,
like, if someone were to scream underwater, like I've done this with with Jonathan, like I'd be in the pool screaming and he'd be above the water. You might be able to hear it, but for the most part, you're not, because that sound is hitting the surface and then just
yeah.
bouncing right back
Yeah, I
down.
never really thought of it like that. Have you ever
Mhm.
popped your knuckles underwater?
I have. It sounds so cool.
That is a cool sound, yeah. That's fun. I have a pretty nice, swimming pool here in my apartment that I'm hopefully gonna get to use in the summer.
Yeah, I imagine it's not
Pop my
very fun
knuckles
to use.
down there, you know?
Right. Do like a polar plunge right now.
Mm, I don't think I wanna do that. The hot water heater is being worked on or something, so I've been taking cold showers, so that's enough polar plunging for me.
Yeah, there are sometimes like there's this building here on base they call Thresher. Is each building here is named after a submarine,
Hmm.
and they went like a week without hot water, and it's cold. It's Connecticut. We're like up north, and so it
Yeah.
is. Like one of my buddies, he had no idea that the hot water was off, so he turned the water on, got undressed, and then he stepped into the shower and immediately jumped back out because he's like, "Oh, that's cold."
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not like I've taken cold showers before, but like not this cold of a shower before, and it was in summer when it's like 110 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's cold outside and cold in your house and the water is twice as cold, it's not enjoyable.
No, like I'll take a cold shower at the end of mine, like start warm and then end cold because it's good for your skin.
Yeah,
But
I've
like I
done that
won't do
too. I've
that
done
the
that
whole
too.
time. Yeah,
No.
not the whole time.
Just going in straight cold is like so hard. I'd be in there, I'd be like, all right, you're gonna straight face it, no whining, nothing. I'll like get under there like 30 seconds. And I'm like, nope, it's too cold, too cold. Not even 30 seconds, like 5 seconds.
Well, so at that point, so you do what we call a submarine shower. Because on a
Hmm.
submarine, you're not limited in the water you use, but you want to limit the amount of water you use because anything you do on a submarine will cause noise. And the whole point of a submarine is to stay quiet. And every
Mhm.
time you fill up the certain, tanks with the toilet water, the shower water, you have to release that, right? You can't just hold it on the submarine. And so you have to
Mhm.
limit the amount of water you use. And so what you do is you turn the water on, you get yourself all wet for like 10, 20 seconds, then you turn the water off. Then you soap up your hair, you scrub all the parts that need cleaning, then you turn the water back on, scrub those parts for like a minute, and then turn it off and get out. So the water is
Mhm.
on collectively for no longer than a minute.
That makes sense.
So that's what I recommend that you do while your water heater's
Yeah,
off.
that's kind of what I would do. I would like put a body part in, wet it, then put soap, the other body part in, repeat the process.
Right,
But we make it work, you know?
right.
So what else is on your little list, if anything else?
um, that was pretty much
That's pretty much
it.
it.
Well, because so that's all I can talk about sonar wise. But
Yeah.
as for and this is all stuff that I've learned on YouTube before I even joined the Navy. And so, like submarines, they can stay theoretically, a submarine can stay submerged for years and never have to come
Mhm.
up. The only thing that makes a submarine have to come up is the people. They need food, right? So they need
Yeah.
to resupply. And how a submarine does that, they use many different machines. So they have a water purifier, so you can have clean water. That's not secret.
Yeah,
Everybody
that's
has that.
obvious.
And then they have this machine that what it does is it uses the seawater around it, which is made up of mostly hydrogen and oxygen, right? H2O. And so there has a machine where it will separate the hydrogen from the oxygen. It'll just send the hydrogen away, put it back into the ocean. And then it will take the oxygen and then release it into the boat's atmosphere and give us clean, breathable air.
That's
And so
cool.
that's one of the things they use. And then they also have another machine that it uses this thing to take the carbon dioxide in the air and like almost use it like it's imagine like a sponge that only took in carbon dioxide and the machine would fill it up and then it would release the carbon dioxide out into the ocean so that way you're getting rid of the bad air, putting more of the good air in.
Mhm.
And it is just so fascinating.
That is pretty cool. I never thought
It
about that
is.
you had to breathe down there.
Yeah,
Like, I knew
you need
food
oxygen.
is obvious that you have to
Mhm.
come up for it, and you're in the water, so why not use the water that you're in and just clean it?
Right.
That makes sense. But I never thought about the needing to breathe. So
Yeah,
that's
and
cool.
so we have so there's that machine, right? But you have to have a contingency for everything. Because what if that machine
Mhm.
breaks? You can't
Yeah, for
not
sure.
breathe. And so they have these things they call oxygen candles. And literally, you burn this stuff and it makes oxygen. So, like, the complete opposite of how fire works. They put it in
Yeah.
this special little fireproof container because, fire on a boat is bad, believe it or not.
I could
And
imagine.
so they'll put it in, and then it has a little pipe, and then you light it, and literally it will pure oxygen will flow from out of this pipe, and it's enough to keep you alive. You'll be breathing in a little bit heavier, and you might feel a little more drowsy, but like you're still alive, so there's not a lot to complain about. And that's only what you
Mhm.
use in a dire situation. Like these are the just in case candles.
Okay. That's interesting. Is this
I know.
proof? Is it proof the military has black magic?
Yeah, we're all
Yeah.
wizards.
This is new information.
Yeah. Just so you know.
Like what kind of wizards? Water wizards.
Yeah, like waterbenders from
What?
what's that show
Yeah,
called?
the
Avatar.
Avatar. Yeah, that's
Same
cool.
concept.
Same concept, just with guns
Yes.
and
Except with
missiles.
missiles that could end the world.
Yeah. So all you have to do is Trump presses the button, then y'all press more buttons, and the world's gone. Is that how that happens?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's cool.
Fair.
I don't know if I have any more questions. Let me check my little list.
Trying to think. Like this
I
this
asked
list is
why the
pretty pathetic,
Navy. I
right?
asked about basic training,
Mm-hmm.
classified information, dreams and goals.
That's
Do you have any funny stories before we end off?
plenty. So
Lindsay?
I didn't
Give us
see
a
this,
few.
but yeah, I'll give you a few short ones. I didn't see this happen, but I heard about it. So in the sub school, there's multiple different groups of sailors. You have the new group of kids who come in, then you have people who are in their A school, and then you have people in this group called ACU. It's just a holding unit, like if there's not enough room in class. And then
Mhm.
there's another group called TPU, which is temporary holding unit. And you're in there either because you need a medical waiver or you're going to be separated from the Navy. Like this is the I don't really care anymore kind of group. And so there's this guy in TPU and he was being separated, so like it didn't really matter what he did because he was already getting kicked out of the Navy. I didn't know why, it's not my job to know.
Yeah.
But he was in this building, Thresher, which is known as the ghetto here on base, because it is like one of the rooms in there one of my buddies moved into was literally like covered in black mold, and he has to live there. And so
That is fine.
yeah, we're taking
Can you not
really
put in like a complaint or like a request to get it cleaned or something, or do they just like deal with it?
he
Clean it
does,
yourself.
and nothing is done about it. So good
Fun.
times.
Yeah,
Very.
good times.
But there's this guy, he's in TPU and he's in Thresher. And I've heard mixed points of view, so I don't really know what happened. I'm just telling you what I heard. But what I heard
Mhm.
is he got in a hot dog costume and he went and pulled the fire alarm and went up several flights of stairs, got into an outer facing window, and just started dancing.
What?
Yeah, because it's like, well, he's already getting kicked out, so it's not like anything matters. So he just was like, you know what? I'm just gonna create chaos.
Go out in
And that
style?
he did. Yeah. And so he just kind of caused mayhem for a minute and danced in a hot dog suit.
Wow.
Good times.
The things people do,
And
man.
it gets so much worse. But in boot camp, here's another one. I am somewhat of a gullible person, as you
Okay.
know. Like if
Maybe a
you
little. I
were
mind a
to
little bit.
yeah, like if you were to tell me gullible was written on the ceiling, I'd probably look up. Like what?
Yeah.
Oh. And so my chief
Yeah,
one
I've pulled that
day,
one on so many people.
it works on me, man. But my chief,
Yeah.
she caught wind of this, and so she wanted to use that against me. And so one day this was near the end of basic training, so things were a little more relaxed. We were even cracking jokes with our RDCs. Like we were getting kind of cool with them, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And it's near the end. We were doing something we call clean compartment. We do it literally every day. It's you make sure you keep your living space nice and clean, because why would you want to live in filth? And you
Yeah.
do this for like an hour, 2 hours at a time. And so I get called into what they call the fishbowl, which is like the RDC's office. And my chief's in there. She's like, "All right, Plock, I need your help with something." She's like, "All right, chief, what's going on?" She's like, "We've heard reports that there are two sailors doing some pretty debaucherous things in the bathroom. And we just wanted to know if you knew anything about that." And in my head, there were two people that I had in mind who I thought, like, I'm a straight white man, and I'm not going to judge anybody for being any other way. That's not my job. But I observed that there were some people in my division who had feelings for people who were very much like them. That's how I'll
Mm.
put it.
Alright.
And I noticed two different people. They weren't even in my division. So I'll explain that later. But they were not in my division, but they were in my compartment. That's how I'll put it.
Okay.
And so I saw them, and I never saw them do anything, but just the way they interacted with one another, I thought
Mhm.
there's maybe something going on here. So I kind of name dropped them, and for a second I saw a look of like surprise on my A-Rock's face, my second in command. He was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, I mean, if it's anybody, then it's them." Because like one of the rules is there's no recruit to recruit contact. Like you can't touch anybody else. Like the RDCs aren't allowed to touch you. You're not allowed to touch them. You can't touch each other. It's
Mm.
like it's against the law, right? And so I was like, I think it's these two guys. And my chief was like, okay, I'm gonna call some other people in just to confirm. And so she did this with you know, like groups of 5 or 10 at a time, call people to the office. I didn't hear what they were saying, but she was talking to them about something. She's like, okay. And then about 30 minutes later, my chief comes out along with all of the other leadership. So my A-Rock, some of the other petty officers that were put in charge of various things. And my chief was like, okay, everybody, we're going to have ourselves a friendly competition. And we're going to do singing. We're going to do singing. And be like, oh, cool. And then she started pointing at people randomly. I didn't know it was predetermined, but she started pointing at people. I thought, okay, she's just picking random people. And they just so happened to be part of my leadership. And she's
Mm.
like, you, Arpak, you're gonna do this too. It's like, okay, fine. And she's like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a phrase and we're gonna sing it. And whoever does it the best wins. She's like, okay. So the phrase was, just give me my money. Like, okay, seems kind of weird, but all right. So the chief went, she's like, just give me my money. She's like saying it really beautiful. She had a very good voice. And everybody
Okay.
was like, woo! Like everybody cheered and clapped. Like, wow, that was great. And
Uh-huh.
then my A-Rock did, and then our Yeoman did it as well. And then somebody else did it. And like they all did it in their own unique way. And like it sounded good. And like every single time somebody did it, they clapped and they cheered really loud. And then it came to my turn. And I was like, Chief, can I kind of put like a little bit of spin on it? She's like, yeah, yeah, go for it, Arpak. And so I wanted to like do kind of like an Elvis impersonation. So I was just like, just give me my money, baby. Just something like that. And and that's how I did it. And when I did it, crickets. Nobody, like literally, people were just staring at me blankly, and my chief was just like, "Okay, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. You're okay. You did great. Let's try it again. That was just a practice round." And so everybody did it again. Chief did it. A Rock, Yeoman, everybody did it again. And every single time they did it, everybody cheered and clapped. Then it was my turn again. And so I was like, okay, I'll just do it normal. So I was like, just give me my money. And I tried to sound pretty, you know? Again, dead silence. But it was at this point that I started seeing smirks on people's faces. And I turned to my chief. I was like, Chief, this is definitely rigged, isn't it? And then everybody started bursting out laughing. It's like, yes, this is 100% rigged. So and what made it even funnier is that whole scandal that she called me into her office about was just an excuse to call everybody else into the office to like help get them in on the plan. So she would call
Oh
people
my
in and be like,
gosh.
all right, we're gonna do this competition and our pod's gonna do something. I need you to just not clap or do anything. And they were like, gotcha. So she came up with a sex scandal just to humiliate me. Like, she went
That's
out of her
actually
way.
awesome.
She went out of her way to embarrass me, and I thought it was hilarious after the fact.
That's really
But
funny.
and then one more I'll share because I have a bunch, but one more. This was
Alright.
also in one more in boot camp. They so literally everything that you have in boot camp is issued to you. You can keep a few personal items with you. Like I kept my little pocket size Bible that I have here. I
Mhm.
had a few notes written to me by some people who love me, and that was really about it. Just some small personal items. You weren't allowed to
Mhm.
have them on you. You just keep them in a little drawer that you put a lock on. And so everything else is issued to you. So that means the underwear they give you is what you have to wear. And they call them skivvies. And Asa, let
Skivvies.
me tell you, skivvies are the worst invention ever created by mankind. Okay? These skivvies are made out of pure cotton. And so their chafe is unreal. It is so uncomfortable. And as soon as I had the opportunity to buy like briefs, because you were allowed to buy stuff at the what they call the necks, you know, it's the Navy Exchange. You can buy some like boxer briefs and wear those instead. And you can bet that I did. But until then, I just had to wear these skivvies. It's like this is so uncomfortable. And they were really bad. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I picked at my rear end a lot because you would get stuck in really uncomfortable places, and I was just like
I can imagine.
trying to trying to fix it. And
Yeah.
so one day we were in this place called Freedom Hall, and it was like this huge gym that all the divisions go to exercise and run and all that fun stuff. One day I was there and I was behind my division. You know, I lead them in, but I wait for them to. No, I don't lead them in. I actually my A-Rock leads them in, and I come in at the very end. So I was at the very end, and we were forming up, and we were getting dressed down into our PT gear. And so I had my shorts on. I was picking at my shorts. this this guy comes by. At the time, I didn't realize it, but he's a chief, and like you respect any chief you see. You know they've been in the Navy for years. So he
Mhm.
comes up to me, and I didn't know who he was. He's like, "Arpak, what are you doing?" I was like, uh, I stood to attention. Was like, nothing, petty officer. It's like, I'm not a petty officer. I'm a chief. It's like, sorry, belay my last, chief. Because if you want to like disregard something that you just said, you say belay my last. I was like, belay my last, chief. And he went on and said a bunch of stuff that I should not repeat. But he said a bunch of things. And he's like, you know what? From now on, I'm gonna call you Little Dookie for putting your fingers up your butts. And so for the rest of boot camp,
Oh my gosh.
anytime I saw him, which was pretty frequently because he was in the same building as my division, I would be passing by him and be like, "Yo, what's up, little Dookie?" I was like, "Hey, chief." It was so great. And so that
That's
was
awesome.
one of two nicknames I acquired while in boot camp was Little Dookie. And
It was
my mom, like every time I call her, she'll call me, "Hey, yo, hey little Dookie, how you doing?"
I can imagine your mom doing that. I can see that.
Oh, it's great.
What's the other nickname?
The other one This one I got pretty early. Is we were all in our compartment, and one of our RDCs had a table set up in the middle, and we were all taking turns signing some sort of paper. That a big thing in the Navy is paperwork. You will
Mm,
drown in it. And it was my turn to go up, and so I walked over, and I don't know what happened, but I tripped over air, and I fell over onto the table, and like no one made me trip. There wasn't anything there. And so my second RDC was like, "Wow, good job, Bambi." So he started calling me Bambi because I just fell over. It looked like that scene from the
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
And but then like RDCs, there's a lot of things that they're not allowed to do because boot camp has kind of grown soft. You know, there's a lot of things that RDCs aren't allowed to do anymore. And
Hmm.
so I left like 10 minutes later, he pulled me off to the side. He's like, "Arpak, did I offend you by calling you Bambi?" I was like, I was kind of caught off guard. I was like, is he really like about to apologize? I was like, no, petty officer. If anything, I found it quite comedically humorous. She's like, very well, carry on. It's like, carry on, all right.
Wow. They have to apologize if they think they offended you now?
Literally, and it's
That's crazy. That's
it's
crazy to me.
it's great. It is. And like of course,
Wow.
they're not allowed to like to hurt you or anything, but
Hmm.
they can make you do things that will cause you pain. Like whenever I say like, "Oh, like you'd be threatened to be beat," they wouldn't physically beat you up. They would make you do a bunch of exercises. Like at one point in
Hmm.
time, the whole both my division and my brother division, which is like we were like divisions that went through boot camp together. We all collectively got in trouble because a group of 10 people got Rice Krispies in the galley when they weren't supposed to. Because like at that point in boot camp, you weren't allowed to have any treats or snacks. Well, they got treats because they wanted them. So the whole two divisions, like 200 people, we were all put in the same compartment, like almost shoulder to shoulder, and we worked out for like an hour straight, which normally wouldn't be that bad. You know, people usually spend hours at the gym, but it was literally like
Hmm.
workout after workout after workout. And by the end, there were a collective pool of sweat on the ground. And my uniform was drenched in sweat to the point where it had looked like I had just gotten out of a pool.
Wow.
And so that's what I mean by, you get threatened to get beat if you do something bad. That's not
Wow.
something that actually happens in the real Navy, that's just a boot camp thing.
Yeah. That's crazy because of 10 people you said?
It was not a very big group, it was, like, maybe 10 people.
Approximate a few people caused 200. That's crazy.
Yeah, less than 10% caused 100% of the divisions to suffer for an hour.
Man. Wow.
It's a good time.
Yeah. Well, this has been a good time talking with you and learning about this
I'm glad I
fascinating
could share the things I
Navy
could share.
stuff. And
Yeah,
thanks for your time.
absolutely.
I know you're a big old busy Navy boy now, so
I'm a big old busy beaver.
big old busy beaver.
Triple B, they call me.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks, DJ. This has been awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
I'll talk to you. I don't know. I plan on having you and John on here at the same time at some point. So
Hey,
I'll
just
talk to you
let me
before then.
know, and I'll make time.
All right. Well, thanks again. Thanks for your time.
Yes, sir.
Enjoy the Navy life, and I'll talk to you later.
I will try. Thanks, man.
Bye.
Bye.
Salute. Am I doing it right? Wrong hand.
No, how do you go? No.
See you, DJ.
Bye.